Good morning. I'm Matt Hudson, Associate Director, Great Lakes with the Burke Center at Northland College. I'm going to talk about our 6-year project to develop a lake management plan for 11 Penokee lakes in the hills of Ashland and Iron County, Wisconsin. The project is funded by the Wisconsin DNR Surface Water Grants Program. So the Penokee lakes that are part of this project are located in the headwaters of the Bad River watershed, which ultimately drains through the Bad River out into Lake Superior through the Bad River Kakagan Sloughs and the Bad River Reservation. The lakes are located in the vicinity of the Penokee Iron Range, and the recent Gogebic taconite iron mining proposal was the impetus for studying these lakes because there was a general lack of baseline data on these lakes at that time. So we propose to study these lakes in 2-year chunks using the DNR Surface Water Grants Program. And we are at the point now where we have a nearly completed management plan. So our process here involved gathering information about how people were using and valuing these lakes. That included using a stakeholder group for feedback that included property owners, lake association people, resource management agencies. We did a property owner survey, and we also talked with, got cultural input from Mashkasibi Natural Resources Department and Glyphwick folks as well. So that went into help shaping management plan goals. And the lake condition assessment involved collecting a series of data sets on the water quality, aquatic plant, fish community, shoreline habitat, all these different chunks of the ecosystem so we could see what kind of condition it was in and help inform management plan recommendations. So what did we learn? In general, the Penokee lakes are in very healthy condition, but we also learned that they are very, very vulnerable for a number of reasons, which I'll highlight here. So many of these lakes have low pH, low acid neutralizing capacity. They're small, shallow, have a long residence time in many cases. And we see here the total hardness, calcium, and magnesium. These numbers are very low compared to a lot of other lakes that we see in Wisconsin. And this is part of what makes them vulnerable to things like acid mine drainage or acid rain. Potential for future increased shoreline development. Shoreline development is certainly a potential here when we compare lakes like Caroline Lake, which have a large portion of their shoreline in some sort of public land or protected status compared to a lake like Mackey Lake that does not. Then we divide those private parcels up using Wisconsin's current shoreline zoning regulations and then apply Wisconsin Lake Modeling Suite to look at how that future development scenario might affect phosphorus concentrations in these lakes. See, Caroline Lake is much more buffered against potential future water quality declines than a lake like Mackey that has a lot more portion of its shoreline in private ownership. Climate change certainly brings uncertainty and highlights the need to protect the existing healthy watersheds and shoreline areas in these lakes. Predictions for more extreme storm events as well as extreme droughts are certainly potential for this region. We did notice a couple of blue-green algae blooms that were of a species similar to what's been popping up in the Lake Superior blue-green algae blooms. We don't know for sure, but this is a potential climate signal, seeing the emergence of blooms like this in a lake that has largely undeveloped shoreline around it. When looking at mercury concentrations in dragonfly larvae and comparing to a published hazard index, we see lakes like Eureka Lake in particular have very high mercury concentrations in dragonfly larvae, which raises questions about potential human health exposure from consuming fish or wildlife exposure from directly consuming things like dragonfly larvae. So this needs further investigation. And of course, perhaps the biggest vulnerability for these lakes is their proximity to the Penokee Iron Range and the potential for future iron mining development and how that mine, if it is ever developed, is managed. So we developed a series of management plan recommendations, which are focused primarily on protection efforts, because in general, these lakes are in healthy condition right now, as opposed to restoration if they weren't. And so here you can see the overarching goals that exist in this plan. There's a series of implementation strategies that are more specific actions that can occur to help meet these goals. And if you would like a copy of the current draft plan, you can email me here. And I thank you for your time. And I thank everyone who has supported this project over the years. Goodbye.